Hello, everyone. Welcome to Online Presenters of Virtual Toastmasters Club. I'm Dr. Sunny, and I'd like to welcome you, especially if you're a visitor and are interested in joining our club. Please note, in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International. You must have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches, and if you do have experience, you may demonstrate your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. Please note that all requests for membership are subject to approval by our club members. And as you're waiting for me to continue, remember to make sure, if you haven't done so, to rename yourself, and all you have to do is change your panel. Make sure it displays your name and role by hovering over your video, right-clicking and selecting rename. And remember, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. As a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. And please note, we're recording this meeting. Your video and audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. And now, please help me welcome to the virtual stage our club president, Marianne Grady. Welcome, Marianne.
Well, thank you, Dr. Sunny. And welcome, everybody. So happy you could be here with us tonight. As you all know, we get together every single Monday night, and we always learn something new. I wanted to make sure that you were aware because we are finishing strong this year. The Toastmaster year expires at the end of June, but guess what? We don't have one educational session in June, we have 2. So Jim Barber is going to deliver a presentation that he did at his district about crafting a killer soundbite, and that will be on June 2nd. And then we are going to have a meeting that I think is going to be hysterical because what is happening is we're going to have a tip-a-thon. So we are having 8 people sign up to give different tips of the day. So talk about an amazing learning experience. That's what's coming up on June 23rd. So we still have openings if you would like to give one of those tips. And if not, please make sure you attend because you will learn a lot. Tonight, our meeting is packed with stuff. And tonight, our Toastmaster of the day is the one and only Jim Barber, who is a TED Talker, a longtime member of our club, and somebody who we held in very high regard. So please put your hands together for Jim Barber.
Thank you, Marianne. My fellow Toastmasters, as you probably already know, National Limerick Day is or was, depending upon your time zone, May the 12th, whichever day that May 12th happens to be relative to you. National Limerick Day. Now, you may know what a limerick is, but if you don't, a limerick is a special form of poetry. But a limerick is to, you might say, traditional poetry, as a pun is to prose. And those of you that know my appreciation of puns will understand that my favorite poems are limericks. Limericks are poems. They're usually 5 lines in which lines 1, 2, and 5 rhyme, 3 and 4 rhyme with each other. They're usually, they have a well-defined kind of bouncy cadence. I could give you the definitions, give you all the things, but the best way to understand limericks is to hear one. The problem that we have, especially here at Online Presenters, though, is that if English is not your first language, understanding spoken poetry can be difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post the limerick in the chat so that those of you who need to can read it while I am reading it, because I'm going to speak it aloud. That's the true way of appreciating limericks. But let's see if I can get the, give me a moment here, get the doody-doody-doo. Dealing with a new monitor. There it comes. Okay. Into the chat. And here is an example of a limerick. God's plan made a hopeful beginning, but man spoiled his chances by sinning. We trust that the story will end in God's glory, but at present, the other side's winning. That limerick is by Oliver Wendell Holmes, not the Oliver Wendell Holmes that you might be familiar with. He was a Supreme Court justice in the United States, but rather this is Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. Jr. was the Supreme Court justice. Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. was a physician, and he also was a great aficionado of limericks. Speaking of limericks, one of my favorite limericks, which I find to be hysterical, is, ready for this? There once was a Toastmaster from Nantucket. Well, no, I'm not going to finish that one because we don't really have the time. We've got a jam-packed meeting, so I'll cover that another time. Let's get into what we're doing tonight. Tip of the day. We are lucky. Oh, God, we're going to have a tip of the day. This is my favorite part of the meeting. We're going to have a tip of the day by Graham Cairns. I have no idea what Graham's going to talk about. If he provided an introduction, I didn't get it. It doesn't matter. I know it's going to be spectacular. Graham, impress us.
The limerick packs jokes anatomical in a rhyme pattern most economical, but the good ones I've seen quite seldom are clean, and the clean ones are not very comical. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, my tip of the day today is on how to write a limerick. Limericks tend to have as I just suggested, a higher incidence of dirty or obscene comments. Limerick expert Don Marquis identifies, in fact, 3 types of limericks. There's limericks to be told when ladies are present. There are limericks to be told when ladies are absent, but clergymen are present. And then there are limericks. You see, the thing about limericks is that they can get really quite smutty. The other thing about limericks, and this is interesting, there is a certain misogyny behind limericks that we may not be aware of. Limericks are considered to be the purview of literary gentlemen. And you will note that I said A, literary, and B, gentleman, because you have to be relatively erudite. You have to love the language to genuinely love limericks. But you also tend to be male because they are just a little blue. Edward Lear was the English poet who in fact made limericks famous. He often wrote nonsense poetry. The Owl and the Pussycat Went to Sea in a Beautiful Pea Green Boat, for example, was the one that he is most famous for. But he wrote, I don't know, 200 odd limericks, and the thing about them is that many of them weren't actual limericks, because a limerick has a specific style. And what I'm going to give you now is a tip on how to write that style. There are 5 lines in a limerick, in a traditional limerick at least, where A and B rhyme, C and D are shorter but also rhyme with themselves, and then E is longer again and goes back to rhyming with A and B. So here's an example. The limerick is furtive and mean. Please keep her in close quarantine. She sneaks to the slums and promptly becomes disorderly, drunk and obscene. Now, that style is humorous, a little bit smutty, but not terribly. You'll notice that the first line, the limerick is furtive and mean, is 8 syllables. Please keep her in close quarantine, 8 syllables, and rhyming with the first line. She sneaks to the slums and promptly becomes 5 syllables and 5 syllables. Disorderly, drunk and obscene, back to 8 syllables again. The first, second, and fifth lines should not only rhyme with each other, they should be the same length. The third and fourth lines should rhyme with each other, but should be much shorter. It gives you, as Jim mentioned, a sort of galloping cadence. Da 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 da. Now, if you're lazy, you can make the last line rhyme with the first two lines by simply repeating it. There was a young man from York who had a bottle of cork. He opened and drank, and soon he stank. That silly young man from Cork. And that's cheating to use the last line again, just using the same rhyme. It's cleverer when you can do it by making the last line the same length and rhyming. I'm going to give you an example of a Jim used the chat, so am I. This is a limerick. And when I mentioned that limericks were largely the purview of the literate, this is a really good example. For this limerick to work, you not only have to be literate, but you also have to be mathematically literate. How is that, in the chat, a limerick? Well, in fact, a dozen, a gross, and a score, plus 3 times the square root of 4, divided by 7, plus 5 times 11, is 9 squared, and not a bit more. So that's how you make a limerick. You have to genuinely love the language, you have to think about the quirkiness, and if you can make it just a little smutty, but not too over the top, then you'll win. Mr. Toastmaster.
And thank you, Graham. Hysterical and enlightening. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. Now let's move to the speaking portion of our meeting. But before we do that, let's get everything defined properly. Andy Byrne, you are our timer this evening. Would you please remind our speakers what the timing constraints of their various speeches are?
My pleasure, Toastmaster of the day. The timer is charged with the responsibility of watching and helping time manage the meeting in 3 specific brackets. 1, prepared speeches, which are usually 5 to 7 minutes. When you hit the minimum time, the green light will go on. When you hit halfway point, yellow will go on. And when you hit the end point, the red will go on. And this is 5 to 7 minute bracket for usual speeches. If it's a icebreaker, it's 4 to 6 minutes. The second time bracketing is the table topics or impromptu speaking. That's 1 to 2 minutes. Again, when you hit minimum, it's green, midway is yellow, and the end is red. And the last and most important area is our evaluation section. Evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes. Green minimum is 2 minutes, middle part is yellow, and the end is red. And I will let you know at the end when called upon where members are. I'll probably put it in the chat if I have time to do so.
Thank you, Andy. All right. Andre Smolenko, you are the Wizard of Oz for this evening. What are you going to be doing?
Thank you very much, Jim, Toastmaster of the day. I'm an account of the meeting. If the weather and time permitting, I will check your skills. I will not help you to pay your bills. And I will probably cheat, saying I'm Andre, account of the meeting. My role is to listen carefully to the crutch words that we're using from time to time. Could be too many R's, you knows, hums, and so on. However, if you decide to pick your nose during the meeting, that's not my responsibility to count on. At the same time, at the end of the meeting, with probably at least a few crunch words and the winners of this crunch contest, I'll report back. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
And thank you, Andre. All right, Graham Cairns, you're ambidextrous, you are multitasking, you are also our grammarian this evening. What will you be doing?
I'll be listening for language examples and then reporting on samples. If you make a bloop, a flight, or a stoop, I'll tell you without preambles.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you. Sunny Fridge, the bar has been set. As the watcher this evening, what are you going to be doing?
As the watcher, I'll be your visual storyteller. I'll keep an eye on everything from virtual backgrounds to your body language. Think of me as your friendly feedback lens, and I'll offer tips when possible to help you get some wins. So sit up, smile, and shine because the watcher is watching you. It's your time.
All right. Thank you. And while you're at it, since we've got you, you're also our chat monitor. What will you be doing as chat monitor?
I won't be hysterical. I'll just keep track of the most helpful, encouraging, and human posts. I won't boast throughout the meeting. And when called upon, I'll hope I've won by giving you a 1-minute report highlighting those posts. Back to you. That's a little cheeky and cheesy, but back to you.
Extemporaneous limericks. I am impressed. Good for you. All right, let's see. Vote counter. Kirthika, you are our vote counter this evening. What will you be doing?
Actually, I stepped in
Where
as
is
vote
she?
counter,
She's
Jim.
not here. Ah.
Yes.
So you're it. David Carr, I know you're kind of unfamiliar with this role, but could you please explain to everybody what you're going to be doing as the vote counter this evening?
I will drop a link in the chat so you can vote with our handy dandy web-based voting system. If you have the Toastmasters mobile app, you can also just open that up, click the tab that says voting for online presenters, and you should have the votes show up there. Either way, you can vote. I'm afraid I haven't made a limerick out of any of this. I do have an election-related limerick if you want to hear it related to voting.
Sure.
Election fever across the nation, shifting to truth and misinformation. We cast our vote more in hope than in expectation.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Good. It's not smutty, but I like it anyway. That's good. All right. I believe that's all of our support team this evening. So let's now move to the main act. All right. Our first speaker is Joseph Yang. He is speaking from the Presentation Mastery Level 1 Mastering Fundamentals, Evaluation and Feedback, speech number 2. Tariffs.
Sorry, Jim, it's actually 1. It's 1, not 2. I apologize.
Not a problem. Speaker number 1. Excuse me. Project number 1. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Tariffs. The tariffs are coming. Given the past few months, it is clear that tariffs will be, whether we like it or not, a constant in our lives for the next 4 years at least. But what are tariffs and how do they work? In this speech, Joe will attempt to help his fellow Toastmasters gain a better understanding of the ancient tool that is enjoying a renaissance in the United States. Joe, take it away.
Thank you, Jim. Tariffs. Unless you've been living under a rock for the past few years, you no doubt have encountered that word at least 100 times by now, most likely through a tweet by our current US President, Donald J. Trump, when he's accusing foreign countries of stealing from the US and promising to make them pay for it. But aside from the politics and the drama, what are tariffs? Are they good? Are they bad? How do they work? And most importantly, how does it affect the rest of us? And just to be sure, the word tariff is not to be confused with the much more fun word taffy, which is a delicious type of chewy candy that is mostly available in seaside resorts all over the US. And if you haven't actually tried a saltwater taffy before, I highly recommend it. But back to tariffs. Now, tariffs is an ancient word. The English word tariff actually originates from the Italian word tarifa, which itself came from the Arabic word tarif, which essentially means a list of duties to be imposed. So essentially, tariffs are technically taxes, but they are really more than that. From ancient times until today, governments have used tariffs as a policy tool to regulate trade by increasing the prices of foreign goods. And they do this for a number of reasons: to exert political pressure on foreign countries, to protect domestic industries, and occasionally to raise government revenues. So how do tariffs actually work in practice? Well, let's think about a very simple example. Imagine a very simple supply chain consisting of three parties: the foreign producer of a good, the domestic consumer or the business that purchases the good, and then in the middle, you have the importer. Now, the importer buys the foreign product from the foreign producer, ships it to a US port of entry, and then pays the tariff to a US government, a US customs official, customs official, excuse me, in exchange for allowing the foreign products and goods entry into the US domestic markets. So technically, it is the importer who pays the tariff, but in reality, the burden of a tariff is often shared across multiple parties. The foreign producer might lower his or her prices to ensure an appropriate level of demand. The importer might eat some of the tariff to maintain his relationship with his domestic customers, and then pass the rest to domestic consumers and businesses. So in a way, tariffs affects all parties in a transaction. And they have the tendency to raise prices and cause inflation, which is why in the past few decades, they have not really been utilized as a policy that much in the US in the era of deregulation and global trade. So how come they have emerged, they have enjoyed a resurgence in recent years, especially in the current administration? Well, I am no economist or political scientist, but I can think of three reasons. One, the US debt burden. Now, the US is one of the most indebted countries in the world. We owe, well, not us, but the US government owes $36 trillion of debt, and it's growing every day. Now, 10 to 20% tariffs on foreign imported goods might not seem like a lot, but the US imports almost $3 trillion of worth of goods every year, and 10 to 20% on top of that is quite a sizable chunk of change that could go a long way to paying down the national debt. The second reason is I believe, an attempt to try to rebuild domestic industries. Now, again, over the past several decades, the US have lost hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs: automobiles, textile, construction goods, you name it. Every industry, almost every industry is affected. And some policymakers believe that tariffs will allow factories and jobs to move back to the US and in the long term help to build the industrial base of this country. The issue there is, of course, that global trade and global trade has become quite an interconnected affair. And many industries, almost all industries in the US, it is connected to global supply chains in some ways. So tariffs, which are, if not applied very carefully, could actually hurt the very industries that this country or this current administration is trying to protect. Think construction, food processing, automobiles, and many other industries rely on foreign raw products to make their goods and products. The third possible reason that I could envision is to exert political pressure. You don't like the way US companies are being treated in China? Threaten a tariff. You don't like the immigration flow coming from the southern border, threaten a tariff. So in many ways, even though the sustainability and the impact of tariffs to exert political pressure is questionable, it nevertheless, I think in the short term, sends a very strong and public message that the current administration is doing something about the issues that voters care about. So there you have it. Tariffs can be a very powerful weapon if used in the right way. It can rebuild industries, it can restore balance, and it can protect national interests. But if used in a very reckless and in a very and in a very broad way, it can be pretty devastating. It can shatter economies, it can provoke trade wars, and it can raise prices and cause inflation. So the next time you see the word tariff being mentioned in a tweet or in the newspaper, don't just think about it in terms of, taxes or us versus them. Think about intention. Think about what that means in terms of how we want to present ourselves in the global stage. And I think most importantly, think about who's actually footing the bill on these tariffs. Thank you very much, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Joe. That was one of the more intelligent discussions, intelligent presentations on a hot topic that I have heard. Thank you for sharing that with us. Our second speaker this evening is multi-talented because he's not only speaking this evening, he also just posted a limerick on tariffs in the chat. So at some point, go back and check that out and see what he's been up to. But don't do it now, because at the moment you will want to listen to hear what he has to say. Our second speaker is Mahfuzur Rahman. Okay, he's speaking from the, I think maybe, Visionary Communication Level 1 Mastering Fundamentals Icebreaker presentation, 4 to 6 minutes. Is that correct? That sound reasonable? Then that's what we're going to go with. Sailing Home is the title of his presentation. Mahfuzur Rahman joined Toastmasters to overcome the fear of public speaking and practice his third language. Mahfuzur loves backcountry camping and exploring the world. Tonight, we're going to hear more about what he loves. Please help me welcome Mahfuzur Rahman.
One Saturday, the sky darkened to a threatened shade of gray, and the air grew so heavy that you could almost drink from it. The rain has been falling for days, each drop adding more lingering memory that I could have. My elder sister and I sat by the window, silently watching the nature's performance. And our lives were about to change forever during my time in a tiny Himalayan village in India when I was only 10 years old. That morning began with an ordinary joy. I could go play soccer in a muddy field, and I was able to score a couple goals despite of challenging weather. It seems okay to me, nothing different. It is an ordinary day like any other. But the transformation came in a frightening speed. The reports faltering from neighboring states with the rising water, villages were evacuated, lives are upended, yet there was no sign of flash flood or mudslides. Our house, perched on the bank of a river, born in the distant Himalayas, suddenly seemed like a home, more like a fragile vessels in a troubled water. The river was my childhood companion. This is where I grew up. I was able to paddle with banana trees, makeshift boats, and these were the memories that I could bear. The water was always my friend until it surged violently, becoming an unforgiving enemy for me and my family. The tide rose in darkness, flooding our entire village, taking our home away, crackling the walls as it surrendered to the flood power. Yet, we all climbed to the roof. The roof was the only place that we could take ourselves to shelter. And we found ourselves in a sailing home. This is the home that I grew up. This is the home that we have our whole memory. This is the home that gave us who I am today. Yet, the first voice that came to me was none other than my mom in her voice telling me, secure your brothers. And I'm telling to my mom, how do I? She threw a bedsheet saying that, here it is. I was able to tie everyone together. This is the time I needed a guardian by myself, and I found that I am the guardian of my brothers and siblings. And that was something that my mother had just communicated. It was something that in her calm voice throughout the disaster, that take care of your family. Take care of your family. We'll be all right. Everything will be all right. Don't even worry. Things will be all right. As we moved through, we found out that we sailed through about 7 miles. And then the rescue came in. By the time we reached to the sheltering home, we found people lost everything in that entire village. It was something that life has been disrupted, and the calmness has been gone. The catastrophe has been created in that entire village. Yet, my mom, in her calm voice, asking me about exams, asking me about when is my final exams, did I prepare for the exams? I said, Mom, can we not talk about exams? And this is what I could remember about my mom when I grew up. Eventually, the water receded, the homes were built, life returned to normal rhythm, but something fundamentally had shifted within me that has what I've seen in the first hand, how a single person's composer could create an island of stability in a sea of turmoil. That was my mom. I had learned that dreams never get drowned. Even everything might be swept away. All the dreams that I had never been drowned. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our distinguished guest, think about a time when you faced uncertainty. Who was your guiding light? What have they influenced you to pave that path? For me, it was my mother. Still, she's paving the path. She just turned 87. I'm so proud of my mom. And that's my story of sailing home. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mafazur. Wow. Combining an icebreaker and something that's appropriate for Mother's Day. Nicely done. Not bad for somebody who's trying to overcome his fear of public speaking. I'm curious to see what you're going to do when you get over that fear. Mr. Timer, how did our speakers do this evening? Did everybody qualify?
Yes, you'll see I posted the times in the chat. Joe did 7 minutes and 10 seconds on his bracket of 5 to 7 with 30-second grace. And Mathesor did 6:29, which was in his bracket of 4 to 6 with 30-second grace.
Outstanding. Thank you, Mr. Timer. I didn't have the latest messages in front of me because I've bookmarked Mafazur's limerick, and I wanted to get back to that. While everybody cast their votes for the better speaker, I indicated earlier in my introduction, limericks to be fully appreciated need to be read aloud. Mafazur, would you care to read the limerick that you posted in the chat? Or I'll do it if you'd prefer not to.
You go ahead, Jim.
Really?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to hear it
I
in
can
your
do it.
voice. Okay, I'd like to hear it in your voice.
Okay, all right. Hey, I know the Canadians and the US, there's no trade barrier. Look, I've been to US more in the last 6 months than entire last 3-4 years. Well, I can tell you one thing that I don't see the difference. But in trade, tariffs rose with a clatter. Canada's goods faced a new matter. The cost climbed so high, economists sighed as commerce was caught in the chatter.
Did you write that?
It just came in.
Really? Wow. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Thank you. All right. Please vote using the link that has been posted in the chat. And we have now moved to the time for prospective member speeches. However, I don't think we have any prospective members, do we, Andre? Okay. In that case, we can move forward to the table topics portion of our meeting. And we have the shy and quiet, somewhat withdrawn Joni Renee Laidlaw as our topics master this evening. I have a feeling that it's going to be an interesting topics session. So, Joni, take it away.
As Table Topics Master, I'm here to spark ideas faster. No falter or fetter, speak quick to the matter, expanding what I said hysterically vaster. We're going to do table topics a little bit differently today. I'm going to display and read a limerick, and from there, for 1 to 2 minutes, there are no wrong answers. You get to take it anywhere you want. Now, we already heard what's a limerick. A limerick's not hard to define, but it needs to do more than just rhyme. It's the meter that matters, the pitters and patters. If not, you're just wasting your time. So we won't be wasting our time today, and we'll be doing some excellent table topics. And since we're a small group, nobody is off limits. We're going to start with empathy. We often get lost in our bubbles, caught up in our own troubles, but it's equally rotten for those we've forgotten. Remember that everyone struggles. And I'm going to ask Asil to take that one.
I'm so sorry. I missed your question.
Okay, I'm going to read the limerick.
Mm-hmm.
And if it touched your heart, then you can speak to that. If you want to answer hysterically, it's completely up to you. And there are no wrong answers. So the limerick is on empathy. And the limerick goes, I wrote it. So this misspelling is, I did that. We often get lost in our bubbles, caught up in our own troubles, but it's equally rotten for those we've forgotten. Remember that everyone struggles.
Fellow Toastmasters, everyone struggles in their way. It doesn't matter what happenings globally, even inside of ourselves, we struggle with our thoughts, with our perception of what surrounds us. But luckily, we have people who can empathize, who can help us, even though if it's not materially, but with words. Words matter. Their attention matters. So remember to be with them, to be for them, there for them. And I keep following news, and my heart hurts, and I cannot do anything. I don't have this power, but at least I can pray. I can say those words to people who can hear me. So yes, I pray that everything would go back to the stage where people can feel comfortable, can go on with their lives, just like we do, joining online presenters and just see all of you. This is what feels great for me right now. So thank you so much for being there for me. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your stories that inspire me. Words matter, and limerick makes your day great. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Asil. And that response touched my heart. So I take it that's what it is. And I agree with your comments about empathy. Achievement. On the road to success, you don't have to go far. No need to ascend to the outmost star. But the prize you can win will arrive deep within when you learn to accept people just as they are. And I'm going to give this one to Sherry Flick.
Can you read it one more time, please? Because I can't see it.
On the road to success, you don't have to go far. No need to ascend to the outermost star, but the prize you can win will arrive deep within when you learn to accept people just as they are.
Thank you so much for that limerick achievement. I totally agree with accepting people for who they are and also accepting the things that they achieve in life. Because sometimes we can look at somebody else's achievement as unimportant, no big deal, so what? And the smallest thing that a person accomplishes means, or it could mean a big deal to other people. We should just take everybody's effort, their progress, their personal growth, and look at it as a big deal. I love to pat people on their back when they achieve something that doesn't just make me happy, but it makes them happy. It makes them feel proud. Because sometimes things are minor, they are small, and maybe that achievement wouldn't be a big deal if it's something that we achieved, or I'll say in my case that I achieved. But because a person feels so happy and thrilled about their accomplishment, again, rather, no matter big or small, to me, it's a win. And for me to pump that person up and make them feel good, it makes me feel good just to see the joy on their face, the laughter on their face, and just whatever warmth they're feeling in their hearts. So achievement is a great thing to accomplish, and I think we should acknowledge that. Back to you.
I
Andrew,
agree.
Andrew, you didn't have the colors. I was supposed
Cards
to.
up.
I supposed to look at the numbers at the top. I'm looking like, where's the green? And I'm like, oh, I gotta count. Thank you.
The answer is yes, Joni.
Okay, all right, excellent. So I will definitely give you a question, Fred, but not this one. This one I have somebody specific in
Okay.
mind for. But thank you so much for that response, Sherry. I completely understand. And I could see how you could get lost in a topic like that because we're all humans having a human experience. And it's about where we're connecting with the smiles, the laughter, the sadness. Loved your response. Intense purpose. This world gives me cause to be curious, for the meaning of life is mysterious. That we even exist make it hard to resist the belief that our purpose is serious. And this hilarity will go to Graham Carnes. Graham, don't run away. You know I was giving this one to you.
I had a fair idea about that. Madam Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests, curiosity is not only the most important thing, it is in fact the only thing that separates us from not us. I spent 40 years working as a journalist, and most of the reason behind that was an intense, abiding, unquenchable thirst to know what was going on around me. I've made the point on more than one occasion that a good journalist doesn't know a whole lot about any single thing, but they do know a little bit about a lot of things. And then they are able to synthesize those into something important, something that means that, as was said before, you never let the facts get in the way of a good story. That actually sounds really cynical. That sounds like you're just going to make stuff up. No, it means that the facts are important, but what they mean is even more important. I've been intensely curious since I was a child. I started reading when I was, I don't know, perhaps 4 years old. I had 4 older children. There was no way that I was going to escape it. I will, if I can't read anything else, read the label off a jam tin just because I love to read. The reason that I love to read is because I love to learn. I love to learn all sorts of stuff. I had a high school teacher, taught ancient history, a guy called Errol MacDonald. And I remember him because what Errol taught me, what Errol showed me, was that history wasn't just dates. It wasn't just people. It wasn't just names. It was stories. It was learning about what made us us. And so curiosity is not only the most important part of us being us, it is the only thing that separates us from those who are not us, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't, too late, because I'm quite sure I'm getting very close to the red light by now, even though I can't see any lights coming up. Toastmaster.
Curiosity is what makes us us. I love that. The past and the future are one and the same. To believe otherwise is a short-sighted game. Outside of uncertainty, now is eternity, drawn by a pure and perpetual flame. Fred, that one goes out to you.
The one that's showing on the screen?
The one that's showing on the screen.
Okay, it says the past and the future are one and the same. To believe otherwise is a short-sighted game. Outside of uncertainty, now is eternity, drawn by a pure perpetual flame. Well, it's funny uncertainty is mentioned in there because I gave a speech Saturday. It was my campaign speech, and I talked about uncertainty and Toastmasters and how Toastmasters often brings uncertainty from that first roll to that first meeting to that first speech. You never know what's going to happen. Or for those of you who showed up at our meeting last night, your first podcast, you're uncertain of what's going to happen. And to overcome that is, I like to use the Nike statement, just do it. Just go out there and give your first speech. Go out there and give your first podcast. Go out there and fill a role. And to give you a perfect example of uncertainty, my first 2 weeks in Toastmasters, I competed in the humor speech contest before I even gave my icebreaker speech. How is that for uncertainty? And I was also uncertain how the audience would react. Now, granted, I didn't place because I was reading my notes, but knowing that people were laughing at my speech and not at me made me feel pretty good. So that's what I have to say about uncertainty in that particular limerick. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you for that parallel as it relates to uncertainty. Fred, I'm happy to have you here today. Now we have one on gratitude. Give ear to the finch when she sings. Turn away from the ants and bee stings. Focus your mind on what's lovely and kind and give thanks as you dwell on these things. And this one goes to Andre.
Thank you, Johnny. For some reason, I just had the feeling that would go to me about gratitude, and I had all the time in the world to get prepared. About gratitude, it's one of the most important feelings that a person, a human being could have. Being grateful for when you get up in the morning, being grateful for your health, for your family, is just feeling that you're alive and you important things in your life. I think we all know that sometimes we forget and take things for granted. I do, and I do it quite often. I woke up in the morning, just my son prepared me a cup of tea, I'll just take it. And then I go to work, to the gym, exercise, until I see someone in the gym, for example, I go to, is a disabled person with little crouches who can shake in and still trying to run on a treadmill. And seeing that person in my life makes me feel grateful for what I have and being able to walk and being able to get to the gym. Seeing my son coming back home and just throwing his school bag in the corner, I'm just saying, Dad, where is my meal? I'm hungry. I think, how dare you? I spent all day working and now you bursting into my office and demanding food. And then I'm thinking, wow, I'm grateful to have him in my life. When I speak on the phone with Mom, who is in Ukraine, who is telling me her stories about the deaths and what Ukrainian people go through every day of their lives, makes me feel grateful. Grateful that I am here, where I am now. And thanks that I'm not in Ukraine at the moment. I can feel that I can do better things and being with my children, with people I love and the business in here and being grateful for it. So that's about gratitude for me. Maybe not exactly as in limerick, but I did my best. Back to you, Johnny.
Thank you, Andre. And I agree, there is always something to be grateful for, especially when we hear about all that is happening in the world right now. Beware of dogma. Pursue the ideals you wish to get close to. As purists advise against ways they're opposed to, sometimes instructions are merely corruptions. So always be wary of those words like supposed to. And Jim, this is Andrew's fault because he was the one who called your name. So that one is yours.
Oh, thank you, Andre, or Joni, or whoever is responsible for that. Well, I would love to be able to do this in a limerick, but I'm not as quickly creative as so many other people here are. But I can definitely talk about the words supposed to or should, make it a little bit shorter. I am so opposed to when somebody tells me that I should do something a certain way. In fact, that's a pretty good way of, no, probably not. I should be the last one. I can pretty much guarantee that if somebody tells me that I can't do something or I shouldn't do something, there's a very good chance that I'm going to try even harder to do it. Unless they've got a very good reason for not doing it, then okay, if there's a good reason behind it, I'll do that. But so often we simply say that we shouldn't do something purely because it's against the rules or because we've always done it that way or something like that. And those reasons just do not fly with me. I am a big believer in going against the rules, going against the norm, going against supposed to, going against should. I want to take the path that other people have not taken. To me, that's the fun of it. If you take a path that everybody else has been on, where's the fun in that? But to be able to do something that people say you can't do or you shouldn't do, or oh, you'll be sorry if you do that. No, they may be right, but it's going to be fun. I can pretty much assure you that it is going to be fun. So for example, they're saying that I should not go over 2 minutes in my table topics. But since I have no idea where Andy went, I'm trying to track him down here and I can't find him anywhere. There he is, and I see red. So consequently, I'm going to cut it off. Madam Topics Master.
Thank you, Jim. And my most hysterical stories actually starts with somebody said that I should do something that way, and I decided to do it the Joni way. So we're there. I can see where you're coming from, and I totally agree with what you said. Overall, the beauty of poetry, as we heard in our tip, is about the love of the language. Language incites so much within us. And that's also the beauty of table topics. It can go any possible way. Back to you, our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Madam Topics Master. That was a great set of topics questions and a great set of limericks. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to exert my Toastmasters authority to deviate from the schedule for approximately 1 minute's time because there's something that I think we need to do. I don't know if people can see it or not, or if they've been able to see it, but Asil has a limerick posted in her background that I suspect she wrote strictly for us. And Asil, would you please take a moment, if you can, and read us the limerick that you have on your background?
Actually, I asked AI to create a limerick about online presenters
Okay.
very quickly. So, and if I can find it here, because I cannot read from my background as well. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I can read it if you prefer.
Okay.
Okay, but I need you to scooch just a little bit to the side because I can't know the other. Thank you. Now I can see it. There once was a club on the screen where presenters polished their sheen. With Zoom as their stage, they engage and engage. Online presenters, keen and serene. All right. Thank you, Asil, and thank you, AI. And thank you, everybody, for participating in the limericks portion of our meeting. We get to evaluate how everything went. So I'm going to turn control over to our general evaluator, to the person that you just heard from, our AI expert, Asil. Asil, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and dear guest, Fred. So great to see you today. As General Evaluator today, on Monday the 12th of May, our club shone online with teamwork so fine. Online presenters lead the way. And it's time for feedback. Sincere, our two wonderful evaluators. Let's give them a cheer with wisdom to share and insight so rare. I'll call now our first evaluator, Mary Ann, our Madam President, here.
Well, thank you, Madam General Evaluator. You are on fire tonight, woman. Okay, Joe, I am so excited to do your evaluation. You continue to improve and grow, and it's always a pleasure to, listen to you. And as Jim mentioned earlier, you really enlightened us on the pros and cons of tariffs. You included history, definitions, and explained how the burden of the tariff falls on many shoulders, and it could be from importers, producers, and customers. Some of my observations are that you excelled with vocal variety. Your gestures, though, were mostly off camera. They were low, so we didn't see them. Every now and then your hands would pop into the frame, but most of the time we could not see your gestures. And I don't know if you realized it, but you did a subtle rocking throughout. It was like just like this, like not much, but while you were talking, you were going back and forth. So you want to kind of anchor yourself a little bit while you're talking so you don't create any distractions. A suggestion. So when you're speaking, sometimes you have to think about your audience. And now you mentioned Donald Trump. Now he's kind of polarizing to some people, and you could make a lot of your audience alienated by mentioning him because some people like him, some people don't. So when you're talking about the tariffs, do you need to mention his name? Or could you start with something that said something to the effect of, we've all been hearing about tariffs in the news, and you're not saying the name and not, firing anybody up about politics. Politics is one of those things you have to be very careful with and choose your words very, very carefully. Um, Now you're ending. You did have a call to action. You asked people to think about all these, you gave a few points, and I think that's a good idea. But it's kind of a little bit of a weak call to action. So you're just asking people to think about it. So, is there something else we can do? That would be one way that you could wrap it up. Or you could tell people, so now that you've thought about it, get out your email and write to your congresspeople or write to whoever so that your voice is heard on this matter. So just something that might be a little bit stronger on the call to action side. But keep giving us things to think about. Your conversational, relatable, and really enjoyable to listen to. And until the next time, Joe, I keep looking forward to your speeches. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Marianne. Those were golden nuggets we learned from you today, Marianne. Thank you so much. Now, feedback continues with flair as the evaluator thoughtfully share with insights in you and standards set high as a star. I'll call on our second evaluator, David Carr.
All right. Thank you for the snazzy intro. And welcome back, Ms. Missouri. Great to see you here at the club. And it's great to see you here, I think actually giving a little master class on how to do an icebreaker. I think one of the most common mistakes I see with icebreakers is that people think that they have to tell you their whole life story. And I think the better approach is the one that you took. Tell people something significant to you that tells them about you. You don't have to tell your whole life story. You tell something that is meaningful. And this was a story from your childhood about sheer terror, I guess. You brought us into that moment. And I love that moment of, Mom, save me. She says, no, save your brothers. Step up for your brothers. You have to grow up in a hurry right now because your brothers need you to help them make sure that they live through this terrible moment. And you had this wonderful line about an island of stability in a sea of turmoil. What a wonderful way of crystallizing that moment and what you were experiencing there. You had this background that you used of a stormy sea. I couldn't quite make out the details in it, but we could see a lot of rain coming down. We could see trees being swept up in the rain. And so it was a good, meaningful image and use of the online medium without overdoing it either. Because you could have turned it into an elaborate slideshow and changed your background a few different times. You just left that there. I think maybe I would have advised you that you might leave it up for a few minutes and then let it fade to black or something, if you could figure out how to work that special effect. But it's very much a minor point. I thought you had good structure to the speech, and there was that acknowledgement of the audience that we hear in some Toastmaster speeches, Mr. Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. And it's an encouraged thing. It can be kind of rote sometimes, but I thought you slipped it in perfectly at the end. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests, who was your guiding light? And so that is the invitation to the audience to engage with the subject matter and think about what the parallel was in their own lives. I think this was a killer speech. You should use it for a contest or something. Very well done. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, David, for being our guiding light today and sharing your emotions about Mahfuzur's wonderful speech. Thank you. Now, let's hear from our team with great flair. The grammarian's wisdom to share, the watcher observes, a counter preserves, and chat monitors always aware. So I will start with Graham, our grammarian today.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Well, no, you're General Evaluator. You know who you are. Everybody knows who you are. We don't need to say it, but I've done it anyway. There are a few observations I wanted to make about the use of language today. There were some truly wonderful examples. There were no particularly egregious examples, but there were some really good ones. I love, for example, Jim Barber's use of extemporaneous. Joseph, in his introduction, which I assume he wrote, which came to us via, was enjoying a renaissance. I loved that phrase. An island of stability in a sea of turbulence from Muffasaw. That's already been pointed out by David, and I thought that was great. Curiosity is what makes us us. I like that. I wished I'd thought of it before I said it. And knowing that people were laughing at my speech and not at me, I thought that was really well done. The users of hysterical during the meeting I noted were Joni, Jim, I believe Sherry, perhaps Sil. If there was anybody else, I'm sorry, I missed you. Now, it's not the most complete report. In fact, I kept it quite short, but I hope that it shone. And now that it's gone, don't like it? Tough. That's my retort.
Thank you, Graham. That was a wonderful report. Now, I would like to call Dr. Sani, our watcher today.
Boy, was I watching everyone today. As watcher, I love that we had some great backgrounds. First of all, commendations to everyone who uses our online presenters theme background. That's a great way that we brand our club and remind people that we are a virtual Toastmasters club. Maybe we'll add in a little bit more in the future. I love the fact that Mahfusa, Toastmaster Rahman, that you did have a virtual background that dealt with uncertainty and it added to your speech. It complemented your speech. I was going to note the rocking. It's been noted, Joe. And once you know some of the things that might be a distraction, you just watch for it in the replay and do it differently. No worries. Now, I love the fact, don't get hysterical, hope this works, but Toastmaster Andy Byrne, remember, if you have a virtual background, behind you, that anything that you show as a prop in front of you can be a distraction. You tried something different this time. It didn't have to rhyme. You were really someone who typically rocks, but this time you didn't beat the clock. I just made that up. I'm a poet and didn't know it. However, no one knew that you actually were showing the numbers. A couple of times people got a little bit confused. So the next time it won't be a ruse. I know it. And finally, hats off to National Limerick Day. Asil, as was noted, you did a great job, and you also had a limerick that helped everybody remember who we are. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sani, for your wonderful report as well. Limericks were wonderful, so we felt great.
Yes.
Now, a counter. Andre.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I've been keeping notes of crutch words and not proper use of the English language. However, I'll keep my reports to the main points. We're Advanced Club, and it was my pleasure to listen to most of the speeches today in limericks and really struggling to find any crutch words. However, just few recommendations is to Joe Young, our speaker, and Mr. David Carr. The use of sometimes can really bring the audience to you and make you more likable. However, but it used too often, it may appear as a crutch word. At the same time, I would like to praise Marianne for inventing new crutch words, and I try to repeat it in that way. 222. When Marianne was looking through her notes, probably trying to find something that she wanted to say. And it's not the end. That the winner for today is Marianne Grady. I'm not sure those crutch words, but they fit in perfectly. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Andre, for your report. And chat monitor, Dr. Sani.
We are back again. Here's what I'm going to recommend. I didn't even do that on purpose. Wow. And now, make sure you save the chat so that if you want to remember anything, that instead of having to remember anything, that you'll be able to find it. We've got great nuggets from Dr. Andrew Byrne. He's so consistent. I don't even want to be resistant. And let's see, the other thing, speech on tariffs, great responses, when we can comment on other speeches. So that was also good. I'll stop there. Please, there are great limericks in the chat. And back to you, Madam General Evaluator. Save the chat by doing those 3 dots and click on Save Chat. Back to you again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sani. With stopwatch in hand, Andrew's prime. He tracked every speech to the time. Thank you, Andrew, today for timing each way your signals and pacing sublime.
Wow.
Now we are over time, so I will end with this limerick. At the close of our meeting today, we learned and grew in each way with feedback so bright. We polished our light. Online presenters, hooray! Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster Jim Barber.
Thank you, General Evaluator Asil. And as Asil indicated, we're getting down to the wire. So rather than close with a limerick, I'll close with a simple poem. Roses are red, violets are blue, rhyming is hard, the end. Back to you, Marianne Grady.
Does David have to report the winners?
Yes, let me do that quickly. Our weekly winner, Table Topics. Ta-da! Andrei Smolenko. Evaluator. Ta-da! Marianne Grady. And best speaker for today, Joe Yang. Congratulations, everybody.
Well, what a fabulous meeting. I love this theme, Joni. You did great putting it together. And a sill. Oh boy, I just couldn't stop cracking up every time you opened your mouth. So that was wonderful. And, thank you to all of you who participated and made up things on the spot. It was wonderful. Before we part ways, I'd like to just say hello to our guest, Fred. And Fred, can you let us know what you thought about tonight's meeting?
Well, first, let me apologize for being late. And you just reminded me this is National Limerick Day. I just posted something on my Facebook page with my name. So check it out. And I love this meeting. If I come, I'm going to be late all the time because I have another meeting I attend on Monday nights. But I loved it. And I love the theme.
And for those of you who might not know, Fred is the president of, it's what, Podmasters?
Podmasters Advance, yes.
And last night, Joni and I went to a meeting of his club, so it was very interesting. And I'm thinking about doing a podcast for one of my projects. So I had some good takeaways from it. All of you, I'm going to just remind you that Jim Barber is going to be doing an educational session here in our club on June 2nd, and it is creating a killer soundbite. And he did that at his district conference and was very well received from what I hear. And there is another very exciting event coming up in the club, and it is on June 23rd. We are going to have a tipathon. So please sign up. We are going to have 8 tips of the day. So we're changing our format that day, and it is going to be packed with things for you to learn. So I hope you'll be able to join us. Thank you, everyone. It was a great meeting. Thanks to all of you. And I'm going to leave the meeting open for a little while, but we're going to end the meeting for tonight. So thanks for coming.